AA Beyond Belief is a podcast by, for, and about people who have found a secular path to sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, thank you everybody for watching the live feed here on, or live stream here on YouTube. I originally put out a title for this that was a bit depressing. It was "Everybody Hurts," and it came to mind because I went for a walk today, and I came back from the walk, and I was just feeling, I don't know, I was just feeling depressed. So what do? I play a sad song, "Everybody Hurts" by REM. But actually, the song is sort of uplifting, and it was kind of appropriate for how I was feeling, and because it does feel like the whole world hurts right now. But after thinking it over, it's like I don't want to be totally into, how bad I feel about things. But I just thought, maybe looking more at, having some emotional balance in the most difficult of times. And Angela even suggested that, in the one of her favorite books is The Alternative 12 Steps, A Secular Guide. And in step 10, it's all about monitoring our emotions and feelings and thoughts and so forth. And to me, that's about emotional balance. And so I thought that might be something worth talking about. For the most part, I think I'm doing great during the week. I stay busy at work. I do better if I don't have the news on. My home group is starting to have online Zoom meetings, and it turns out that I really like them, although I do have to be the IT guy for the group and help everybody get on into the meeting. That's okay. But I find myself at those meetings smiling and laughing, and that is something that I think is badly needed right now. It just feels great to see them. And I think I like those Zoom meetings with my home group so much better than other meetings I've gone to, because I actually know those people. I have relationships with them from the face-to-face meetings. So that makes it a little bit more special. So, hey, I forgot to say hi to Angela and Ben. Hi, Angela.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. I listened a little bit to our thing last time after we were done, and you said hi to us, and you're like, "Hi, Angela." I'm like, "Hi." I'm just like,
I'm fine.
Yeah, I am great. Sorry.
Is that a dog? Well, I have this habit of saying hello and then not letting the person talk. Hello. So anyway.
Yeah. No.
Ben?
No big deal. I'm going to guess Angela put her phone on mute, or her thing on mute.
Oh, was that her dog? Abby dog.
It was my dog. Yeah,
I wasn't sure if that was like a sound effect.
He was voicing my feelings. We're very, very closely connected. And so he was just helping out demonstrate how I felt last week. So
we should record that dog. That actually is a good sound effect. It could be used like... So Ben, how's your week been?
Oh, it's been up and down. Having two toddlers, I guess, is four a toddler. I don't know. We have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and being stuck inside's been pretty tough. We've gotten out a little bit. I went to a playground yesterday, but I was thinking that wasn't the good choice, but there was nobody there. But we went, and then I felt guilty about going. Because I didn't feel like I was doing my social distancing part, even though there was absolutely nobody there. So I don't know. I struggle with what's right to do, what's wrong to do. We don't go to the grocery store unless we need to. And, just not talking to people in person is a deal. And I'm starting to understand. I think it was easy to say that, yep, doing good. This is what you do. You do the deal last week. And then this week it's been, oh God, get me the hell out of here.
Well, it's funny. I was looking out the window at my car, and it's like, wow, I haven't driven my car in a while. It's kind of bizarre. Okay.
The good side, though, is I'm getting a lot more exercise. I've been going a lot more walks. My wife has been, we've been taking turns. We got a lake close to us, so we've been taking turns going over there and walking each day. So
yeah, I think I've lost a little bit of weight. I'm basically living off of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and going on walks with my dog. Okay, to the topic at hand. You know what? I always like to go to Angela because actually she knows this book, right? Forward and backward. And so why don't Angela, you kind of introduce the subject matter, and we'll just take it from there. Let a conversation flow from that.
Okay, great. So yeah, we were the three of us kind of talking about what to share this week, what kind of things were going on, and one of the things that was coming up for me is hearing a lot of people in meetings, needing to share on what's happening, but sometimes we get really lost in the feelings that we're having, and just kind of keep circling on those feelings of fear and frustration and anger and all of that stuff. And so, I thought about what have I done in the past? There seems to be something that I've done that helped me with this. And it made me think of step 10 for me. And one of the things in the secular guide that I really like is that their idea of step 10 is basically, trying to live in balance and integrity. We do mindful behavior, and that they see it as, the authors see it as a step where you're actively working at monitoring your moods, and individual emotions and stuff. And so one of the things they bring up is to think about, like, where is the emotion that you're feeling in your body? Are you sitting there right now with your stomach tight or tense? Are you clenching your jaw? For me, I find that my toes, I clench my toes. And that when I go to try to do any sort of relaxing or meditative thing, and they have you do a body scan or whatever, I find that I have my toes clenched a lot when I'm angry or frustrated or, having some sort of anxiety type of emotion. And so their suggestion is to think about that, and try to relax those parts and see if there's something there that you can work with. Maybe to feel a little bit better, or just to understand where that's coming from. I think some of the stuff that's happening, is real. I know it's real, but some of our reactions and emotions to it are not because of it. They're because of other things that we've dealt with or thought of or been through. And so some of our anger is, triggered from that stuff. And then we're projecting it onto other people, or at least I know I am. So
isn't that interesting that a lot of times we're looking at I guess fear or something that seems to be misplaced, but in this case it's actually, there's reason to be fearful, I guess. There's reason to be concerned, and that's something different, I guess, for some of us. I don't know. For me, I guess it probably is. But I've been finding some balance when I find myself getting anxious. The thing that helps me is my walks with my dog. That really does seem to help kind of break up the day a little bit. And I am kind of aware when I'm kind of getting out of line. Like I have been kind of rough with people, like at work. I've not been considerate that they too are feeling the same sort of anxiety.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Ben. Did you want?
Oh, yep. Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, as we know, we had an email thing yesterday, and I was a little bit terse in my response to one of Angela's emails. So I apologized for that before we started this. And it's misdirected stuff, like you said, Angela. And I like the way you described that, or how you said the book described it. And it's kind of about taking things that I think I used to react on out of what seemed like instinct, without any consciousness about it at all. And now I need to make those things conscious and keep them in my conscious. So that's where that 10th step stuff is important, because I think it's not letting yourself off the hook to just react out of panic or anxiety or this or that, and say, like, no, let's make this conscious. Let's try and be aware of it as often as possible so that we can reduce doing that. And like you said very well too, it's in John 2, it is serious. This is stuff. We are going to have natural reactions to things that are a threat, or things that we perceive that people are doing that threatens all of us. But trying to limit how we have that fly out sideways at each other, which I didn't do very good yesterday. is really important. And it takes me back, like this higher level of anxiety. It also reminds me of when I first got sober, just that low level anxiety or high level or low level anxiety that I carried around all the time, that I wasn't ever aware of. And then once I got sober physically and then worked on some stuff, like to feel a sense of calm at some time felt very foreign. So now this is kind of a return to that. Hey, I am feeling a low level of anxiety all the time. I'm going to need to be a little bit more vigilant about watching my behaviors, because it's coming out sideways at my kids, and they're dealing with stuff too. Like, even if they're just itty bitty little beings, they've got routines and they're used to seeing their friends and they're used to going and playing at different places. So it affects all of us. And the more I can stay in an empathetic mindset and remember that everybody else is going through this too, the less likely I am to act out and then feel like I then feel guilt and shame about acting out, then having to make an apology and then do it all over again and say, why the hell are you doing this all the time? But it's also good to just remember we are human. This is the first time a lot of us have gone through a lot of things like this as a society, and it's going to be a deal. But also in AA, a lot of people have had traumas that make them hypersensitive to this stuff too. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of been prepared for this if you've been in recovery a while too, but still it almost brings us back to that. So that's a tough thing.
Yeah. One of the things that I like in that secular guide as well is that I think is different from what I've heard in the rooms on traditional 10th steps, is a lot of them, it seemed to be that, you ask yourself questions that are more harsh, like you really have to get after yourself or beyond yourself. And I like how they talk about, fear being natural. Some of the stuff I've learned is that, we react that way because it's part of our biology, and some of these things people are saying or doing, make us think that we're about to be attacked by a bus or a bear or something. And so one of the things that they have is, doing some checklists at the end of the day, like, where have I been in integrity? Have I been out of integrity? But not to like beat yourself up about it or go on and on and on about how awful you were or anything. But to note it, and where have I helped people? And where was my act of courage? That was one of them that I liked, because, I don't generally go through my day thinking of myself as being courageous in any way, mm-hmm. But in stressful times, that is helpful. It takes me a little bit out of all of that stuff. And then the other thing that they mentioned in that chapter was the classic halt. And that made me think of last week that for me, that was probably one of the main things that was going on with my anger. I mean, yes, I was frustrated with people, because it was scaring me. And not adhering to things that I thought were, important to all of us. But I was also very, very tired. And so I probably should have thought about that a little bit before I reacted the way that I did. And that might have saved me a little bit of embarrassment and would have made me feel more like I was living in my own integrity. So,
Angela, we have a caller.
We'll take Sounds good.
Hey, John.
Oh, hello.
Hey, John. It's Jaren from Madison. How's it going?
Oh, my goodness. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, we're hanging out. Got the night off from work, and me and my wife were watching the show, and we figured we'd call in and say hi. And I guess and you have kind of already touched on it. I think for me, there's been two kinds of people that have been going through this situation. There's the people that are kind of like really just looking on the bright side of things. We're all in it together. This is, what can we do to help each other? And then there's the people that are like mega anxious. And like, even I could tell like my sponsor or, my boss or my coworker, because I'm still working, I'm considered essential, and so is my wife. So, it's like these people that are just short with you and upset all the time, and they're just not fun to be around. It's like, you know what? I'm already having a shitty day. We're already all worried about things. Do you need to have just a bad attitude all the time? You know what I mean? Like, how is that productive to the situation?
With me though, what it is, so I might be one of those people that's a little bit hyper vigilant about this thing. And I get really upset about the people who just say, oh, it's no big deal. you're silly. You should be doing, you're overreacting or whatever. They, those are the people that drive me crazy. And how did I deal with that? I mean, I do believe that I'm right about this whole thing and that they really need to be responsible, but I can't control those people. So why should I even let it bother me? That's where, I need to kind of check my emotions and just say, I can't, there's nothing I'm going to say it's going to change. That's going to make this person do anything differently. It's not worth getting.
Yeah. That's like today I was out for a solo run. I wasn't by anybody, and I was down on campus, and you could see like just large groups of college age women, walking around together. And then you were seeing like people playing ultimate frisbee, and while they were keeping their distance, they're all still like throwing the frisbee around and touching the same, thing. It's like, what was the point of even doing that? And then it gets frustrating, but then what am I going to do about it? You know what I mean? So it's a very frustrating process. This is just going to keep getting worse and worse. And, it comes a point where like your anxiety, like you feel a tightness in your chest and you're like, oh my God, is this like just my paranoia, or is this actually, do I have something? It's like this constant like battle in your head or in my head, on a day-to-day basis. Like it's a very frustrating thing, that we're going through,
Yeah, I definitely agree. I had that. I was telling John before we started that I wasn't well last night, and so I was needing to be in the bathroom about every 2 hours, and I don't have a fever, and I didn't do anything different in my day. I think it's just stress. But of course, my first thing is what's happening on the list of things, and none of it was, I don't have anything on there, but that was still my worry. And so I've been in isolation for 12 days with my mom, because she's one of the vulnerable people, immune compromised, I guess is what it's called. And so it's still, there's still a couple of days there where, it's possible. But for the most part, I've been extremely careful for quite a while now. And so it's still pretty unlikely. But that is, my first reaction was, is this one of the symptoms, am I sick? And it brings up that anxiety and that fear again.
Yeah. And I was told early on the program, right or wrong, that alcoholics and people in recovery always tend to focus on the bad things. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And I know that that's true for me. And when I do my inventory at night and my wife checks me on it all the time, it's like, okay, you know what? We need to focus on the positives and just try to get through this like everybody else. And that's, a lot of those program things come into play for me is like, and you do have to find some gratitude. I still am working. There's a lot of people that aren't, my kids are okay. Like I need to look at those things on a daily basis too, as opposed to all the bad stuff that's going on,
I'm a bit of a negative thinker, and it does help me to stop every once in a while. Like basically for me, the big thing is when I take my walks, that's when I get out of the house and I see other people walking around, and people do tend to smile and wave. And it's just kind of nice to have that interaction, even though it's at a distance and everybody's doing that thing, but still I like it. Plus the online meetings that my group is having have been really helpful for me. I mean, that's that one period of time during the day where I get to see my friends, and seriously, we laugh and smile, and it's just really nice to see them. So that kind of takes me away from all that negative stuff. It brings me back into a balance, I guess.
Yeah.
So
well, I think it can be tough too, because there's a part of me that like wants to be like, no, but it's right to be worried right now. It's a disservice if I'm not concerned. But then I have to bring myself back that it's like, no, these things we learn are tools to take ourselves out of that. It doesn't mean that we're dismissing reality or that we're trying to deny reality. It's like, okay, I'm not feeling well about this right now. It's still here. It's going to be here. I need to take myself away from that with the tools I've learned. And if that's saying, hey, I just need to focus on some positive right now, I can do that, but yet not say to myself, you're just dismissing reality, Ben, because sometimes I struggle with just being terminally serious about stuff. And we need people like that. That can be an asset. But I think what I've learned in recovery is whether that's right or accurate or not, there's times I need to give myself a break from that too. And so it is a struggle, but it's also these tools that we get, they're just useful. Like whether they're always accurate or not, it's like, I just need to tell myself for a while, it's okay to not worry about that for a bit.
Yeah. And I think that, at least what I've learned is that we all have a negativity bias. So it's not just those in recovery that feel that way or that automatically go to the negative, that it is part of the way that our brain chemistry works. But, for those of us in recovery, we start to learn, some different tools to help, I don't want to say combat because that makes it sound like we're at war, but,
Right.
to work with that, I guess. And so, again, some people have said we kind of maybe have a leg up in that we have more of an awareness that our brains tend to go in that direction. And so sometimes we can correct a little quicker and then, be more helpful to other people that are struggling with this. So,
and I think it's good to be forgiving. It's good to be forgiving of ourselves in it too, because a lot of us have had some kind of trauma. And I mean, you can define trauma lots of ways. You could have a divorced parents, or never have known your parents, or things like that. But I think all these things, big and small, tend to make people who end up having alcohol or drug problems just hyper attuned to things because maybe we had to be in order to survive. So something like this comes up, and it's easy to tell ourselves you're worrying too much or you're this or that. It's maybe part of what we've learned to be, to stay in survival mode when we were younger. So we need to be forgiving of ourselves for that too, I think.
We've got a couple of comments in the chat room that are kind of nice. Jay Marr says that live in the now, do personal check-in throughout the day. I've been practicing breathing techniques every day. It seems to help. And then Anonymous Alcoholic writes, life on life, this too shall pass. I have control over my attitude. I am not powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. One of the books
John,
that
can I ask you guys
Go
one
ahead.
quick question? Oh, sorry.
Sure.
No, absolutely.
Can I ask you all three one quick question before I let you go? So let's, we get through this a couple months and we come out the other side. How is this going to change you, if it'll change you, going forward, this whole situation? So with that, I'll let you go.
Good question.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby.
Well, I hope it doesn't change me. I hope it doesn't make me, I hope it doesn't make me feel bad towards my fellow man or anything along those lines, or my fellow human. I don't know. I think that the change is going to be more with society as a whole, and I'm part of that. I just think that, we're going to we're going to be working differently. Some of our relationships might be different. But hopefully I won't change so much. I don't think I will anyway. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Angela, if you'd like.
I think that everything, is going to change, and so we will too. I like you. I'm hoping that I'll be able to let go of some of the negative stuff that I'm seeing or holding from what's going on. But on the whole, I think that a lot of good will come out of this. What I'm seeing is more people. We have a space called the Green Belt, which is a very long path by the river that goes through Boise. I'm seeing more people on that, and the people that I'm seeing on that are actually enjoying it and looking at nature instead of their phones. So I think that, if that continues, that's a positive. And people are looking at, how to help each other. I think people are getting to know their neighbors, at least where I live. Not that many people really, they may know the names of a couple of the neighbors like directly next to them and stuff, but neighborhoods on a whole, not so much. And so I think they're starting to develop a little bit more of that, 1950s neighborhood vibe type thing. Pretty soon when we're allowed to, their kids are going to be, hanging out in the basements and, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think those are some of the good things. And also just thinking about how we're choosing to live our lives since we're forced to do it a different way now. I think that will come into play when we have greater choice again, how much we want to structure our lives around the way that we did before and how much we want to take from the new. So for me, I'm going to do more Zoom meetings. I'm really enjoying the Zoom meetings now, and I'm attending more secular meetings that are based on specific groups in different areas. Like, we've had the secular AA online groups for a while, about 7 of them. But I'm enjoying a couple in Toronto, and I joined in on the one in New Jersey. I can't remember his name, but you did a show with him a few weeks ago. I joined his group, and so I'm getting to know some people in recovery in a more intimate way than I have before. So I'm hoping that I'll continue with that. How about you, Ben?
Oh, just like tangibly, even went to the grocery store a couple days ago, and I had this thought in my head, like, when will I not be so cautious about being 6 to 10 feet away from someone? Like, it'll be interesting to see when, like, say the fall comes and finally I'm not thinking twice about how close I get to somebody. I know I'll be more vigilant about washing my hands probably. I like to think I practice a lot of this stuff as far as trying to be empathetic of what other people are going through. But I think as far as a nation, it's kind of like, I guess on some level, when 9/11 happened and you have this huge act of terrorism that's right in your face, I think as Americans, we tend to think it can't happen here. And you see, it's easy to say, like, well, look at all that stuff going on in China. That's not going to ever come here. I think I hope, and I think it gives like a humility. It's like when I was still drinking and I would do something that was so bad that even the next day I woke up and was like, oh my God, just that vast slap in the face of humility. I hope that we have that and we hang on to that. And I don't know. Again, I agree with Angela. Something good can come from this, but this is going to be pessimistic. People have really short memories. I mean, it takes just each of us to change, and that's our responsibility. But in terms of average everyday person, I think most people are just hoping the football season starts in the fall and we can go back to doing whatever the hell we do. I think there's definitely a segment of the public that just feels inconvenienced and thinks we're all just overreacting. So
we got a caller, Ben. I think it might
all
be. Right. I think it might be Bobby. Not sure. Let's see. Hello,
Ben.
Hello,
John. Ben, Angela.
Okay,
hello.
Bobby.
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine. I apologize. I answered the phone and then I immediately muted you because I wasn't ready to take your call yet. Sorry about that. So if you had been talking to us and we weren't responding, that's why.
Ben was rambling on again, Bobby.
Okay.
No, you know what? I was listening. I was listening to the conversations, and
cool.
I kind of remember. So this is Bobby C,
yes.
A friend in recovery.
That's right.
From Huntington Beach, California. And I'll tell you what, I've been writing down some slogans, and the slogans, believe it or not, these stupid slogans that I learned throughout the years, they help me so much. I tell you what, I could just go back on that one day at a time, keep it simple, this too shall pass, life's on life's terms, all these slogans. I'm looking out the window and I'm seeing a mountain out there. I'm seeing some breeze with some palm trees. One thing, this gift, I have a gift that's been given to me in the form of a brain and a mind, which I can control my attitude. And I have a choice today because I have to see some of this positive stuff, because all day long I have the TV on a lot of times and I can feed into the negative constantly. So during the day, I have to always remind myself. I was looking forward to this podcast so I could hear some good stuff, positive and negative, because that's what life's all made of. But I'm just going to continue listening, and just I thank you for this chance and this podcast, so I could just jump in during the day before I call my mom, who's 99 in New Jersey, and talk to her a little bit. But I'm going to hang up now, and I'll continue listening, guys.
Thank you, Bobby. Always nice to hear
Thanks,
from
Bobby.
you. Got another
Thanks,
comment
Bobby.
in the chat room. Stephen B writes, definitely takes practice. Learning new positive behaviors is just like trying to learn a new discipline. It takes time and practice and a lot of picking yourself up after making mistakes. That is absolutely the truth. And, I always kind of still, because of my, the time I'd spent in just traditional AA, I always still look at the steps through a traditional perspective, I guess. And this really is all about a daily practice for me of knowing when I have, and it's for me, I still use this language, whenever I may have wronged somebody, when I may have, acted in a way that might have been inappropriate with somebody, when I may have caused some damage to a relationship. I really do try to stop and think about what is going on there and then figure out a way to set things straight. And something that I have learned over time is that not often, but frequently, I guess, the way to set it right is not necessarily to make a big production over it and talk to the person about what was going on, but just kind of make a change in my behavior to the person, like almost immediately. And I hope that doesn't sound like I'm just trying to get away from actually making the direct amend or something. But I honestly have found that sometimes it just kind of doesn't work too well. So that's what I've been doing a little bit more often. Like the other day, I was just very, very, I think rude to somebody I work with. It was late in the day. I was irritable and it just wasn't really nice to her. And maybe I still will speak to her about it and let her know that I'm sorry that I was acting that way. But today I spoke with her and I told her, you know what, you had a really good idea. We're gonna use that, and just had a really positive conversation with her. And I think that for me was just a beginning. I don't think that I've completely set it right with her when I think about it.
Yeah. Well, and doing different behaviors, at least to me, speaks louder than somebody coming in explaining to me why they behaved the way they did, because oftentimes in my life, that people have been able to do that. I mean, my family's been in and out of therapy since I was a kid, and things were said and intentions were, talked about, and then it wasn't met. And so a change in behavior is a pretty big deal for me. And I agree, and even in the book, it says, stuff about like not, going to people if you've, had an affair or something, and that it's not always a great idea to go, hey, I had an affair with your, spouse. So sometimes in, work relationships and whatever kind of other relationships we have, it's not always, appropriate to have a big drawn out type of, thing about it. It's just change the behavior and be more intentional in the future.
And it's like, it's not the first time I've ever done that with her anyway. And I think it might kind of get old after a little while, but I don't think I'm awful and terrible and like this all the time, but it's just part of maybe who I am. I might get a little bit irritable sometimes, and oh gosh, I'm human. Aren't we all?
Mm-hmm.
So
mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that Ben brought up earlier about trauma, I was thinking about that today as well, that this is traumatic for a lot of people. And I don't know that everybody would see it that way, but having, an abrupt change, which feels abrupt to most of us in your life, is traumatic. Some people are losing their jobs, and that's something that's considered under trauma too. Some people are, having to separate from their spouses because of the work they do and their immune system. People who are doctors or nurses and their spouse has an immune deficiency. So, that's a loss as well. And so one of the books that I got out to start reading is called The Transformation. And it's by James S. Gordon, MD. And he's got, a ton of credentials and stuff. But one of the things that he does with his team is he goes to, like the Middle East, to the, Gaza Strip, to to refugee camps and to places of war, and he works with people there who have directly experienced violent trauma, and works with them on how to move that through their body and to work on their trauma in that way. And so this book is, some of the stuff he learned on that, and has some suggestions on how to look at and process the trauma that you're going through. And so I would suggest that, if people are feeling a lot of anxiety and feelings coming up from that, possibly check out some reading and some information on trauma as well. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing. I know one of the guys from my home group is calling 3 different people on his recovery circle or home group list every day to check in and see how they're doing. And oftentimes speaking on the phone is, people are a little more honest than if you text them like, hey, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, cool. Right. So he's calling people to do that and it helps with his anxiety, talking to somebody else. I know some people that are starting a recovery literature Zoom book club and reading, memoirs and things like that. So there are different things that we can try and work on as things are coming up that, it hasn't been that long that it's been a big part of our awareness, this new lifestyle. So I think as we, keep going, then, we'll have some new ideas and ways to help each other get through it.
If there's something I do hope that changes for me, is that I hope I continue the habit of talking to people on the phone. I've been doing that. I just find myself doing it naturally. And I'm not normally a telephone talker. I don't like having long conversations on the telephone at all for whatever reason. I don't know. But lately I've been having lots of them, with people and it's been nice. So it's kind of funny.
I was, when we had talked about some other things too, I think I didn't fully appreciate that need to be around people as we were talking last week. And I was listening to some podcast. Well, I've been listening to a ton of podcasts. That's been one of the great things about going for walks. But yeah, I will listen to Death, Sex, and Money podcasts and people talking about how they were working their recovery on that and the adjustment to Zoom meetings and not being able to see people in their meetings. And it just kind of took me back because I think for myself, I was always a very social person when I drank, but I thought I was only social when I drank. So I think after I got sober, it was tough for me to accept that I needed to be social, because when I was trying to not drink on my own before going to AA, I would just isolate. And I was not somebody who drank by myself. So if I isolated, it wasn't because I was drinking, it was because I was trying to not drink. So when I was listening to people talk about that, I felt, I don't know, I didn't feel the opposite of those people, but it was just an interesting realization that, I don't know, that I don't always have a full appreciation for just how much it means for people to be around other people who are doing the same thing they're doing in the early stages of recovery, and just how important that is. So that's been on my mind a lot lately, and how that isolation can be really tough for a lot of people.
Doug P. writes, exercise is also good for emotional balance. That's very, very true. Jaren, who called in, he's a runner. He ran 100 miles. He did a 100-mile race once.
Oh, that's right.
And I used to run and loved that. I'm not doing that now, but I am, like I said, my walks have meant everything to me during this time. And the weather has been really crappy here, but when it gets nice, I think I can still ride my bike and be socially distant. But I really would like to do that again, just to get out and get some fresh air.
We finally saw the sun here yesterday for what felt like the first time in a week. And man, it makes a difference.
It came out just for a little bit, then went away again.
Yeah.
I miss going to the pool. I really like water exercise. So that's one of the things that I've been missing lately. But I have been walking more. And again, where my mom lives is near the river. And so that's been nice because hearing the water and going down and stuff, it's relaxing.
But don't be like Rand Paul and don't exercise if you're waiting for your test to come back from.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
What?
Did you hear about Rand Paul? Okay, so he was getting tested for coronavirus, right? And while he was waiting for his test results, he went to the Senate gym. He was to work out. Yeah. He swam in the swimming pool. And then later he finds out, oh, I'm positive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not
Yikes.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So there's a time to exercise and a time when you should
Right. Right.
balance.
Yeah.
Oh, what a guy. So we have the phones open if anybody else wants to call. It's 844-899-8278. I can tell that we're kind of winding down. We've been going for about 40 minutes, which seems to be about what we usually do, about 40 or 45 minutes.
It's been cool too. I've seen quite a few people that I follow on Twitter that aren't necessarily big AA people, but they've been celebrating their sobriety birthdays like by themselves too. And so it's cool to be able to just throw out a little tweet and say, hey, and then everybody likes it. And it made me thankful for technology. And I was also thinking back, my sister, we have some ranch land and it is really isolated. Like I have to drive 2 miles to even get 1 bar for a cell signal when I'm up there working. And,
is she in North Dakota?
Well, she is very close to the South Dakota border in north central Nebraska. The closest town is 250 people, and that is 8 miles away. And the closest town of over 1,000 people is 31 miles away. So it's middle of nowhere. But anyway, I was thinking back to, again, I'm not trying to be political, but I can remember back in that area when Obama was big on doing all the high-speed internet, even to the rural areas, and people were talking about what a waste that was. And that was in like the late 2008, 9 or whatever. And, I was thinking and this isn't to prop up Obama, but I mean, what an astute move as far as seeing forward, because this connection and this technology that we have, even in the most rural areas of BFE, Nebraska, I mean, has really made a difference and like has allowed people who still can work to probably work as well. So
it's almost like essential to have access to the internet anymore. One of the debates that we have online sometimes is, I'm a big proponent right now of meeting online, and other people say, well, wait a second, we still have to have face-to-face meetings because there's a newcomer out there who can't get online. And what are you going to do about them? What are you going to be doing about the homeless guy who can't get online? And I know there's some truth to that. There is a digital divide. But my response is just right at this point, well, there's a lot of suffering out there and I can't alleviate all of it, but I can hopefully not contribute any more of it. But yeah, there is a digital divide, no doubt about it. And we're getting to where as a society, you almost need to be connected for work and all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, most of the newcomers we get because of the internet, not because they called, a clearinghouse or anything like that. It's they Googled on where we were at. And,
right.
And even the impoverished people that are living in, group homes or at the mission, they go to the library and Google us.
Right.
And so, yeah, and I do know right now, at least in our area, that those places are still trying to provide services because it's still very cold in Boise.
We have a call
for that population.
Should I take this call?
Sure.
Let's see who this is. Area code 802. Hello.
Hey, it's Peter from Vermont.
Oh, Peter. How are
Peter.
you?
Hey,
Boy.
Peter.
Hey, great. Great to talk to you guys. It's been a few years.
Yes, it has been.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah. Hey. I can never miss an opportunity to put a plug in for the Living Sober book.
Oh,
and,
you're a big fan of that.
I'm a little book thumper. And so I was revisiting chapter 19 during a meeting, which is about being grateful. And the word choice is in that chapter like 6 times. And, the message is that no matter what's going on, you can always choose to be grateful. And now is a time when I'm really, I've taken stock of all the good things in my life and everything that I have to be grateful for in the middle of all this, adversity.
That's a good point. That was actually that was a topic we had at one of our online meetings just a couple of days ago, and it was actually taken from a reading from Joe C's book, and I think it was something along the lines of gratitude being an action, not just a feeling.
Yes.
It
wasn't a big part of.
Go ahead, Peter.
Again, it's an active choice, right? Because we can always, we can choose our response. Maybe not our initial reaction to something, but our measured response. Because gratitude wasn't a big part of my toolkit. In the early part of my journey, and I was actually kind of the contempt before investigation thing, like, make a gratitude list. How is that possibly going to help me? That's, don't give me that touchy feely stuff. I just, I need some real help here. But yeah, as I've gotten along, it's that pause, right? And am I going to focus on the negative and, or maybe feel sorry for myself, which is the opposite of it? Or am I going to, make the effort to see whatever the good is that's going on? It was sunny and 50 degrees. That's pretty warm for here this time of year. I'm out for a walk and listening to music on my headphones, and I was like, how cool is this? I'm alive, for this fraction of an instant in the universe, and I'm enjoying this art, which is a fleeting expression. And and coming out of the other side, I'm probably going to be grateful for just being able to go to a movie or a restaurant, and like Ben was saying, just how cool it'd be to just be free.
So do you live near that walking trail that has the giant bust of Bill Wilson in Vermont? Did you see that?
No, I don't. That's Southern. Yeah, that's Southern Vermont. That's a couple hours away from me, and I haven't made the pilgrimage. Going to the Wilson house or some, kind of like the holy trek, but it's not on my bucket list.
Yeah,
not a real alcoholic, huh, Peter? Peter, are you going to DC this year? Assuming it goes on.
All right. Well, I just thank you guys for all your work, and I appreciate you doing this.
All right. Take care, Peter.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, Peter.
Ben will be
I was trying to find out if
go
Peter
on.
was going or not. I owe Peter lunch. When we were in Austin, Peter bought me lunch, and super great guy.
Yeah. So
very cool.
I'm assuming it's going to happen, but you never know, what's going to happen with that. And I also wonder about the international convention for AA itself, which is like in July. Are they going to be doing that?
I'm pretty sure that's not going to be possible. But I'm not in charge of that. I'm just hoping that October will be able to go forward. I know that right now that there's no plans for it not to be. So it's just kind of a wait through the summer and see if there's a vaccine or
you never know. A lot can
develop,
change.
Herd immunity or some sort of thing.
Ben, Peter says he hasn't decided on DC yet. He just put that in the chat room.
Okay. I'll tell him I'll get a hold of him.
Okay.
This is my little regional thing, but Kirk Herbstreit is like a college football analyst, and he said that the college football season shouldn't happen in the fall. And you think about that, John and I have talked about it, that is huge stuff around here, and that is a huge economic driver. Even just here in Omaha, like the NCAA tournament was supposed to be here in March, and then Berkshire Hathaway, the annual investors meeting, is always here. That brings 40,000 people to town. And then the College World Series in June is already called off here too. And then you think about maybe the college football season. I mean, the economic impact of this too is something that everybody else have to keep an eye on. So it's tough times when it comes to that stuff too. So just got to keep everybody in mind.
Maybe we'll try some takeaways for tonight as we sign off. Angela, do you have any takeaways of this evening that you want to sum up?
Well, I'm kind of stuck on Peter's little book thing, because the only thing I really remember from that book is that it gave me permission to eat a lot of sugar.
Oh yeah.
So that's that. Whenever I think of that book, I just think of eating a lot of sugar. I like talking about how to do some or bring out some of my more positive step work that gives me actual things to do. Because otherwise, most of the time I will think about it and get stuck in that. If I think about it enough, I'll come up with something that'll change the way that I'm feeling right now. I've obviously missed something if I'm upset or, unhappy or whatever. And getting back to some things that are actual tools that I know how to use, I think is going to be helpful for me. Or I'm hoping it'll help me in the next week to act more in my integrity than I have been lately.
Oh man, I like to think I'm far enough away from my last drink that I don't worry about drinking, but I found myself thinking, not like actively like, well, let's go have a drink. But I mean, a thought popped into my mind where I was like, well, why the hell not? And then I was like, whoa, where's that coming from? Haven't had that in a while. So I guess my takeaway and my point with that, and that's also with my diet and everything, it's just like, well, shit, why not eat a whole thing of cookies or whatever the hell now? So anyway, my point is, I think as long as we just keep staying connected to people who know us and who care about us and who tend to think like us, we can do this and we can keep feeling okay and make it through. So if I wasn't staying in contact with enough people that I need to stay in contact with and talking to people, I might be apt to act on that stupid thought, So we can make it through anything together, I think. I suppose I could get the coronavirus and die 2 weeks from now. Wow, Ben said he could make it through anything. But the point is, even if
we do look at you as a prophet, and so.
Well, Jesus is bringing the economy back on Easter with him, so we'll all be okay.
All right.
But
as long as I get a Cadbury egg, I'm good.
Even if that were to happen to me, I think I could be okay, right? And realize this is just part of the deal. And I think some people think this is depressing, but I'm just as important as a virus or a microbe or a bacteria. I'm no more important. I'm no less important. Something about that gives me peace. For some people, that scares the living hell out of them. But for me, that gives me just peace to know, no, that's my ego saying that I have control over all this stuff, and virus be damned, we're going to knock it into the ground. You know what? With 70% of the bacteria that exist in my stomach to help me digest food. So what's more important, bacteria or me? So anyway, the perspective that gives me when I think about that stuff helps me a lot.
I guess what I was thinking about is something. I think you mentioned the word, Ben, empathy. That just empathize with people. If I find myself, feeling that tightness in my chest, is just to recognize it, to take a minute to pause and recognize what's going on, and remember that the person on the other end of the phone or the computer or whatever is probably feeling the same way. So. Anyway, it's been fun talking. I like these Friday podcasts, these live streams. I think that we're getting better at them all the time. I love to have the callers. That's a lot of fun when you call in. So we're going to keep this up. I'm also going to post the other podcasts during the week. So I might post some of those on Wednesday, because I've got a couple that have been recorded that I still need to edit. And get ready. I fell a little bit behind on some things, and I have some guests to talk to here pretty soon too. So those will continue as well. But I do love the live stream thing.
Yeah, this is fun.
It is fun. So thank you for listening to AA Beyond Belief. As I said, I love doing this, and thank you, Angela and Ben, for participating. Thank you for everybody who called in.
Looking forward to next week.